All right, hello, welcome. My name is Shaina. I'm an astrologer, tarot reader. So today I'm continuing a little series of mine that I accidentally started, which is astrological red flags and green flags. So I have already done astrological green and red flags for relationships, so check those out if you haven't. I just put out red flags for hookups, aka sex, aka fucking, aka I don't even know what else you would call it. And today I'm putting up astrological green flags for hookups. So what I'm going to talk about today has nothing to do with long-term compatibility. It has nothing to do with romance. It strictly has to do with hookups, sex, fucking, whatever you want to call it. I'm in a monogamous relationship right now and I'm very happy. But in the past, if I've been like, do I want to hook up with this person? Let me see. I will definitely check their birth chart. These are the things that I would look at in their chart. And if they had them, I'd be like, this will be a fun time. This will be a good time. This will be a good hookup sexual experience. So these are the things that I look for personally now. Everybody is so different. Yours are going to be very different to mine. I would love to know some of your green flags or Mars placements that you see that you like in the comments. These are just mine personally. So to get the advertising out of the way, I sell birth chart readings. I have a personal Instagram and I have an astrological TikTok. So you can check all those out. The links will be down below. I want to put my Mars up at the beginning of this video. So this is what my Mars is. This is the aspects it's making. This is the house it's in. This is the sign it's in, right? This is what's going on. So I think this is important to show you before I get into this video because I have such a weird Mars and you might disagree with me and you might think that I'm so odd for saying things that I do, which I get. Also, I know a lot of people don't like these like categorizing, you know, positive, negative videos on astrology, and I totally get why, but this is also just all for fun. So if you take it really seriously, I hope you lose sleep about it, and I hope it really upsets you, and I hope that the fact that I made this silly video on YouTube, I hope it follows you if you're offended by it and it just ruins your day. Let's get into it. So number one for my astrological green flags, I've already mentioned this in like 2 of my other videos, so I don't need to go into it much at all, but I can't not mention it. I have to mention it. It's like one of the best aspects to have just in general. It makes such a harmonious person to me. And that is moon, conjunct, trine, or sextile Mars. So I talked about this more in my first green flags video for relationships because this is honestly a green flag for relationships and for hookup experiences. So if we're talking about this more in the realm of hookups, why I like this aspect so much is because it's talking to the feminine side of a person as well as the masculine outward external side of a person. So when these two things are in harmony, it usually creates somebody that's very comfortable with both their feminine and their masculine side, and it also just makes somebody very comfortable naked, in general more comfortable in their own skin. And this will create a lot of harmony within a relationship, especially within sex. This is not going to be somebody that's probably uncomfortable to take their clothes off, weird having sex with the light on, weird being with somebody new for the first time. Moon sextile conjunct or trine Mars is very comfortable within themselves and is very comfortable within themselves sexually. Nobody wants to have sex with somebody that like doesn't feel comfortable. Nobody wants to have sex with somebody that feels awkward in their body, that doesn't know what they like, know how they like it, know how to satisfy the other person as well, because the moon is a very other-based luminary and Mars is very me-based. So when you have I know what I want and I know what you like, I can do both, it just kind of creates a lot of harmony. It just creates a lot of ease, and just in general, like this is not going to be somebody who's like uncomfortable with their sexuality in general. This is going to be somebody who's comfortable with what they like, what they want, know what they want, interested in what you want, open to it, comfortable, make you feel comfortable. They can even be very cuddly while also being very sexual. So I just think this is like a great aspect in general, and also great if you're looking at synastry or composites. I would pay attention to it like that too. Also, I should say these are in no order, although the first one is like the biggest green flag, honestly. Number 2, and this is one I talked about in my astrology tag if you want to watch that, is Sagittarius Mars. So if we're talking some of my favorite Mars placements, Sagittarius has got to be up there. I do have a Sagittarius Venus, so it makes sense that I'm interested in somebody with a Sagittarius Mars. It's very complimentary. I am a female. I like it in males or females. I think just in general, it's a really, really fun energy. I'm also a Libra Mars, so it also sextiles my Mars, which is really nice. So just in general, it makes sense that this is very compatible with me. Now, this is an energy that if you are somebody who does not like passion. And what I mean by passion is like, if a Sagittarius Mars is upset about something, they're gonna say it. If a Sagittarius Mars wants something, they're going to go after it. If a Sagittarius Mars has any inkling for any sort of action, it's going to be acted upon. And so this can be a little bit of a messy placement. I would definitely not say this is like the best green flag for relationships and monogamy. It can be. It doesn't mean that it's bad for it, but I think this is a great placement for a hookup because it's fun, it's optimistic, it's willing to jump into things, it can do things with no strings attached, it's experimental, it's playful, it can laugh things off if it's awkward, but it can also be serious if it needs to. Also, what I like about Sagittarius Mars is that they will come up to you and they will tell you they like you. And I'm a Sagittarius Venus, and so I'm normally the person that goes up to the other person and, you know, gets it all going and orchestrates the whole thing. Capricorn, Sagittarius for sure. And so I like Sagittarius Mars because it's one of the only times that I feel like they'll come after me. I just like that like unabashed confidence that Sagittarius Mars has. Again, if you're somebody who's like into more vanilla sex, if you're not really wanting your boundaries pushed in a hookup, if you're wanting something like safe and reliable in a hookup for some weird reason, I would not go with this placement because they will push boundaries or at least bring stuff up, or they will jump into things that, you know, I think it's just a perfect hookup position though. I think it's so fun, and obviously Sagittarius expands any energy that it's in. So if you have any sort of Sagittarius Jupiterian influence on your Mars, you're going to have a higher and bigger and larger sex drive. So that's also something to think about with Sagittarius Mars. If you are somebody that has a low sex drive, I would not go with a Sagittarius Mars for a hookup, but I have Mars trine Jupiter, so I love somebody with strong Jupiterian, Sagittarian influence on their Mars, and this is perfect. These people can go for a really long time. They can even do these really weird, like, long spurts that can be really fun when you're just wanting like a one-night stand, but you're not wanting it to last like 5 minutes. They can like do a one-night stand and it'll last like the whole night. I also just like how much like energy and exuberance and open-mindedness there is to Sagittarius Mars, but they can be very confrontational in a lighthearted way, but they will be confrontational. They don't let things slide. So if you are a more passive person and don't want to deal with it, don't want to bring it up, don't want to talk about it, don't want to, I don't know, even like sexually. Like if there's something that you're self-conscious about sexually, a Sagittarius Mars will kind of bring it up without realizing they're bringing it up. So err on the side of caution if you're somebody that's a little bit insecure sexually. I would not go with a Sagittarius Mars. But if you're like me and you're crazy and you want fun and excitement and exuberance and all that sort of stuff, I would go for a Sagittarius Mars. I obviously love them. I'm with one right now, so it's biased. And then kind of bouncing off of that, number 3 is Mars in any aspect to Jupiter. I don't know about in conjunct though. I don't know if I have experience with that, but square, opposition, trine, sextile, conjunction. I will take anything with a Mars aspect to Jupiter, especially because Mars aspect to Jupiter, if you're interested in men, how can I say this? If you're interested in men, Mars aspect to Jupiter, or like Mars in the 9th house, Mars in a Jupiter sign like Pisces or Sagittarius, any of that kind of stuff, and you're wanting, okay, wait, should I be like haha hee hee about this, or should I be Shaina? I should just be Shaina about this. If you're somebody that's looking for a guy and you like guys with big dicks, this is the aspect to look for. I also like Mars in aspect to Jupiter because I personally have this aspect, and I'm not looking for every aspect that I have because I have a lot of aspects to my Mars and there's a lot that I don't really want somebody else to have. I've got that handled, don't worry. But Mars in aspect to Jupiter is something that I love. I love. It gives you a higher sex drive, it gives you more stamina, it gives you a bigger member if you're a guy. I mean, I have this aspect and I have a big butt, so that might have something to do with it. Maybe it gives some girls big boobs, who knows. This is also somebody who is really willing to jump into sex. Again, no strings attached. This is not somebody who is going to get too serious about things. They're going to try a lot of new things. If you're like wanting somebody to experiment with, this is the person. As you can tell, like you can probably see the things that I like in sex. Like I have a high sex drive and I like people to feel comfortable in themselves and in their bodies. And all these 3 that I've mentioned so far, kind of that's what they do. I mean, also Mars in aspect to Jupiter is just good to have because this person will have like a bigger workforce behind them, so they'll probably be better at their job or be more productive, just in general get things done, go where they need to go, be where they need to be. So it's nice in that way as well, in like a practical sense. But sexually it's like way fun because this person is like always on, never off as far as sexually. So number 4 is a little bit more, in my head, like traditional, which is Sun conjunct Mars. And that's weird because I haven't noticed it with Sun trine Mars, sextile, square opposition. Well, I wouldn't want a square opposition, but I really like somebody with Sun conjunct Mars. I think that what it is that if it's man or woman, you know, no matter the gender, whatever their gender is, with this aspect, there is a sort of just blatant masculinity to it. And I should mention that I am bi, but I do like femininity in men, and I like masculinity in women. Like I need some sort of, I have Venus square Mars, so I need some sort of balance within people, right? And I like Sun conjunct Mars because I think it would be perfect if somebody had Sun conjunct Mars and then like moon touching their Mars as well, because Sun conjunct Mars would make somebody like very masculine. Like this is definitely a womanizer energy, so just be careful with that if you're like, you know, catching feelings for somebody with a Sun conjunct Mars, because they definitely can, you know, get what they want sexually, and probably will get what they want sexually for the most part. But why I like Sun conjunct Mars is because I do like somebody that is like a hot topic person, if that makes sense. Like Sun conjunct Mars will just make this person in general just give off the vibe of a strong masculine sexuality that I like it, because no matter what somebody with Sun conjunct Mars does, male or female, there'll be this like masculine undertone to things. So if it's a man and they're like actually kind of feminine, and maybe they're being more emotional or they're showing more feminine side, why I like Sun conjunct Mars is because there will always be this underline of masculinity that kind of allows them to do feminine things without it being gay. I know that sounds like so weird, but you know, like I don't mind gay shit at all. I love gay shit, but you know what I mean? And even in like a woman, I think it's nice because this does give like a masculinity to her, that even if she has all these other softer things going on, she will be able to kind of take on that masculine dominant role if necessary. But it's still attractive to me if a Sun conjunct Mars takes the I'm so personal. If a Sun conjunct Mars takes the more like submissive or like feminine role, they still have that Sun conjunct Mars that's just so strong that there will always be some masculinity there kind of flavoring everything. They're usually really good with their hands. They usually have a really good work ethic. There's usually a natural attractiveness, a huskiness, a manliness to them, or even there's just a natural like built quality. These people can probably get buffer easier, stronger, have a better body type easier. I mean, even if you're a woman with this aspect, you can just be more toned, and it's a very, very strong potent aspect. Like this is one of the most sexual aspects, and so if this belongs to somebody, they probably will have a lot of past sexual partners because, you know, just their energy, their life force, their sun in general is on top of Mars, so they're always going to be thinking about sex. They are maybe potentially going to be a hypersexual person, so just be cautious about what else is going on, because it might just be create like total nymphomania. But for the most part it doesn't. For the most part it just creates somebody that will go after what they want, will get what they want, and is very strong, determined, takes up a lot of space, has a big personality. And also just in general, if you're wanting somebody very sexual to hook up with, this person just is. This person doesn't have to do anything. They just are, and they exude it naturally. And so I just find this aspect to be very attractive personally to me. The reason why I didn't put in Sun trine Mars is because I feel like that's like an athlete's aspect. A Sun trine Mars I feel like is a little bit more douchebaggy and a little bit more confident, too confident. Sun conjunct Mars is super duper confident, but like because it's conjunct, they sometimes deal with the issues that like square and oppositions do, where they falter, and I like to see a little bit of that struggle. With Sun trine Mars, it just might be a little bit too much high school quarterback for me that has no problems and just does whatever, and they probably wouldn't even be attracted to me in general. They probably want like that blonde, you know what I mean? That's why I'm not saying Sun trine Mars, because I don't think I'd really be attracted to that. Sun sextile Mars is just a little bit too subtle. I think it still probably counts, but Sun conjunct Mars is just so fiery, so on it, so like anyways, moving on. Number 5. So I was originally just going to say Aquarius Mars, and I think that I will just label this one as Aquarius Mars because I do love an Aquarius Mars, but it's more than that. It's just anything Uranian. So I love Aquarius Mars, I love Mars conjunct trine sextile Uranus, I love Uranus in the 5th house, I love Uranus in the 8th house, I love 11th house Mars, you know, all of these come back to Aquarius or Uranus in some way. And I think it's just so important for me, if I were to hook up with somebody or be with somebody sexually, and what I'm like actually looking for, what I'm attracted to, which like what like dings me when I see it in a chart, is something Uranian, because I'm like, this person's so weird. There's just a lot of open-mindedness. There's a lot of spontaneity. Also, if you're looking for hookups, right, we're not wanting somebody who's going to like connect to us too much. Aquarius Mars isn't the most cuddly. So this is purely a hookup energy because they're not going to be the most like cuddly, cutesy, romantic, warm energy. This is much more of a, we'll be able to have fun. We'll be able to keep their distance. We'll be interested in weird things. We'll be very open-minded. Won't be grossed out by too much. Won't be off-put by too much. But also what I like about Aquarius Mars is the confidence. I like that about Sagittarius Mars as well, but especially with Aquarius Mars, there is this confidence that like even if they're not the best, they still will say they're the best and will fully believe it. If you have like an Aquarius Mars and you're a girl, you'll be like, oh, what can I say? How far can I go? You're like, oh, I have the tightest coochie. Like, even if you don't, you'll be like that. And if you're a guy, even if you have a whatever lame dick, you'll be like, oh, I have the best dick ever. You'll just be so confident about it. Sometimes looking back on that thing, I'll be like, maybe that person with that Aquarius Mars or Uranian Mars shouldn't have been that confident. But I can do that too. So I kind of like it. They do just think they're the best, but they're just really fun. Like, you have to look to their Venus to see if they're afraid of commitment, because it's not a placement that's necessarily afraid of commitment. It is still a fixed sign. It can still commit for sure, but it doesn't need to. It can be aloof. And so if you are just looking for a hookup, a situationship or something like that, I think this kind of combination, some kind of Uranian energy on Mars will be very beneficial, especially if you're like a guy and you're looking for a girl to hook up with that you don't really want to catch feelings for you, you know, if I'm just being honest, which is fine. I think that this would be really good for you, going with an Aquarius Mars, going with somebody with some sort of Uranian aspect to their Mars, because they will be able to separate things. So you can just have fun sex and it be casual and it be lighthearted with this energy, and you don't have to worry too much. It's such a good Mars placement. I feel like if I could be reincarnated into, and I got to choose my Mars sign, I would probably choose Mars and Aquarius, because I'm a Libra Mars. I like being an air Mars actually quite a lot. But I feel like Aquarius Mars is what everybody thinks Libra Mars is. Like, everybody thinks that Libra Mars is like cool and detached and chill and open to try anything and whatever, but I think that can sometimes be Aquarius Mars a little bit more, or Uranus influence a little bit more. Okay, so we're hitting the middle of this video now, and I'm like, you know, with all my other red flag, green flags videos I've done, I've been like, yeah, there's one or two that's like personal to me, but for the most part, I would say these are pretty universal, honestly. But this one, I'm like, this one is not universal at all. This is literally just for me and the things that I like, and I am odd. So number 6 is third house Mars. So this is a one that, again, a lot of people probably won't like. This is the bully. This is 100% the bully in astrology. My progressed Mars is in this house, so I will totally own up to the fact that I am the bully of the zodiac, for sure. Also, my boyfriend has this natally. We are both bullies. We are both very mean. We just make fun of everybody. It's just what it is, but it's third house, so it's trivial, it's silly, it's not that deep, right? But I like third house Mars because they're very combative, but in a very lighthearted way, in a way that my Libra Mars likes, because they can get really, really frustrated and really, really serious about things, but then they will just be able to laugh it off and move on and move forward and not really dwell on it that much. And I know that's kind of the flack that Gemini gets, because this is the Gemini house. Like, oh, it's so shallow, it's so this or so that. But sometimes don't we want our Mars placement to be a little bit shallow? And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes we don't want everything that makes us angry to hit us that deep. And when you have a third house Mars, I just don't think things are that serious. Like, yes, obviously you have other placements in your chart which makes things more serious, that touch you more. But there's something in a third house Mars that I really like, that when things get really serious and you're like, oh, this is like an argument, you can just make them laugh. Shrug it off, not be so serious, not take it so seriously, not get so caught up in things, you know? And that is why I like third house Mars. And I mean, I guess it's a little bit less hookup wise, and this is a little bit more just like Mars in general. They can be flighty, they can be very promiscuous, all that sort of stuff, but that's kind of not what we're looking for in this video. I just like a third house Mars because it's a little bit more lighthearted, it's a little bit more silly, it'll make fun of you also. I kind of like that. Like, I kind of like somebody that will call me out a little bit in sex, that'll be kind of honest, it'll kind of poke fun, and I think that third house Mars will do this. Also, I think it's pretty easy to find a third house Mars out and about in like your local bar and club scene, because that's what third house rules. It's like the neighborhood, it's the Gemini energy. So they're usually out and about, you're usually able to find them, and they're usually pretty comfortable with hookups as well. Although this is A placement to definitely be cautious, because I think this can be a little bit of a cheater energy, because they can be here, there, and everywhere. This can be a little bit of a liar energy. This can be a little bit of a whatever energy, but I like Gemini energy, and I do like it in the Mars, but I don't really like Gemini Mars. And so this is my way of being like, I don't like Gemini Mars, but I like kind of what it stands for, and that's third house Mars. Also, if I'm not like bullied or made fun of in some way by the person I'm about to hook up with, I'm like, you like me too much. You know, I'm really exposing myself. Also, I like this energy because it's very active. This person will show you around the neighborhood. They'll be like, oh, you know, why don't we have sex in this hotel? Why don't we have sex in this coffee shop? Let me show you all the places that I know. Let me kind of introduce you to people I know. Like, it's a very social energy. So I think that also if you kind of hook up with this person, you can, I think, with this energy, hook up with this person and genuinely just remain friends after. If you are capable of doing that, they are definitely capable of doing that. I mean, if you're into hooking up and you're into the party scene, they can definitely introduce you to stuff like that. Number 7. So I have mentioned a lot of really harsh and kind of negative and kind of mean and kind of bad scorpionic plutonic stuff in my other videos. And now if you're wondering, okay, then what do you like that's plutonic, that's scorpionic? I mean, secretly I do have a major soft spot for a lot of Scorpio plutonic energy, but I am going to be very picky about where it is and how healthy it is, and I am going to be very cautious about it. So what I have found to be the healthiest kind of combination of scorpionic plutonic energy mixed in with somebody's sexuality is Mars sextile Pluto. Not even trine Pluto, not even conjunct Pluto, not Mars and Scorpio, you know. I mean, I can like a Mars and Scorpio, like, let's be real. Maybe. But it can be kind of scary. It can be really, really scary. So you have to be cautious. So I would never green flag that. But Mars sextile Pluto, this is something that I have that I'm like, this can be a real MVP. Because we all like a little bit of Scorpio and Pluto to our sex life. We all love that intimacy. We love that like deep bonding. Even that like, ooh, what are your deepest kinks and what do you really like? Like that is Scorpio. That is Pluto. Yeah, Uranus is fun and it does these quirky things, but what that person really likes is their Pluto Scorpio energy. And why I like Mars sextile Pluto so much is because it gives you that kinkiness, it gives you that sexuality, it gives you that like kind of an enjoyment of power play, even without it being toxic, which is so rare. Like, I cannot emphasize how much I don't see this in people's charts. People are usually pretty strong one or the other, and it's rare that they can enjoy those kind of power plays safely. You know nobody better than yourself sexually, and I feel like I can enjoy that stuff safely, and I attribute that to my Mars sextile Pluto. I mean, even when I was discovering my sexuality, I was also kind of discovering astrology at that time in a way, and I remember being like, I am so thankful I have Mars sextile Pluto, because they're just if it was any stronger, even if it was a trine, I could go really far deep into this stuff and do things I regret. You know, that's what can happen with Mars trine, conjunct, square, opposite Pluto, a strong Scorpio Mars, strong Scorpionic energy in general, strong Pluto. You can really be talking to things that you don't want to do. You can really be convinced to do things you don't want to do in the long run, and it can cause a lot of harm. It can cause a lot of shame. It can cause a lot of post-traumatic stress even. And I just find that with Mars sextile Pluto, even though I have a Libra Mars, I can't be talked into things I don't want to do. If I'm doing it, it's because there's a part of me that genuinely wants to, and there's nothing that I've looked back on in my life and been like, oh, I should have said no to that. And I think that Mars sextile Pluto makes it so that it never gets to that point where it's like gross. It never gets to that point where it's like abusive. It never gets to that point where it's harmful and it's just toxic and then only one person's enjoying it, right? Because that's what can happen with those harsh Mars Pluto aspects, or even strong Mars Pluto aspects in general. And because Mars sextile Pluto is so soft, it's so minor, but it's not there. I just feel like in general, there's an autonomy with Mars sextile Pluto. There's a certain level of power that you yield and hold, but it's not very strong with Mars sextile Pluto. It's just in the self. There's a certain amount of boundaries that you hold with Mars sextile Pluto in sex. And also in the good way, there is a lot of an ability to really get intimate. So just in summary, I like this aspect because it's potent and it's intimate and it's deep and it's hot and it's sexy and it's interesting and it's alluring, but it's not toxic. And that is why I think this aspect can be a real MVP. Number 8, and oh man, did I not want to talk about this one. And it's literally just because you guys are going to be so happy that I'm mentioning it. The people that have this natally are going to be like, I know, should have said this first. And I'm like, do I want to give that satisfaction to you guys? Not really. But I guess I will. I just have to be honest. I have to be honest, okay? Number 8 is a Leo Mars or a Leo Lilith. Also 5th house Mars, also 5th house Lilith. Any sort of energy within those 4 that I mentioned is fun because it's like the porn star Mars. Like, that's what these 4 energies really are. These give a sort of what you want your porn star that you watch online to give off. That's what this energy gives off, right? I'm not necessarily saying that Leo Mars is like the best Mars, blah, 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 but like, my God, are they fun? And do they really exude confidence? Even if these people aren't the most attractive people in the world, they are so attractive just because of how they know how to hold themselves. They know how to tempt somebody, how to flirt, how to seduce, how to like, God, like, it's just really intoxicating. Leo Lilith and Lilith in the 5th house is actually going to be a little bit more subtle than Leo Mars. Leo Mars in the 5th house is like, I know what I'm doing. I know how to be sexy. I know how to be hot. I'm gonna make you turned on. Like, I got this. They just know that they got it, and they usually do. And the thing with Leo, it's a fixed energy, and it's a little bit of a basic energy in my mind. It's not going to be the kinkiest. It's not going to be the most experimental. It's not going to be the most, you know, random and spontaneous. It's not really like that. It's a little bit more traditional. That's why I call it like the porn star Mars, because it's just like what you want a porn star to be. It's just kind of like that classic, do you want someone good at sex? Do you want somebody that knows what they're doing? Go for a Samantha from Sex and the City. She's a Leo Mars. You know what I mean? It's not something that I'd want to spend my entire life with. They're a little bit boring and a little bit, you know, just did it for themselves. But me being a Libra Mars, I'm like, I can do that for a night. I can make this about you for a night and you'll be so into it. And it'll make you happy and that'll make me happy. Leo Lilith and Lilith in the 5th house is a little bit more subtle. This is more of a honorable mention than it is a green flag. These people are so sexual, especially with Lilith in the 5th house. Like, these people have a lot of partners. So if you're wondering like, oh, what's a, you know, foolproof way to see if somebody's had a lot of partners? Well, if they have Lilith in the 5th house, they've had a lot of partners. And if that's something that bothers you, then, you know, I maybe would go for somebody else. But it does equal experience in the same vein. But I like Leo Lilith and Lilith in the 5th house because it's like this level of confidence that Leo Mars wants. And yes, Leo Mars is probably better at sex and being alluring and being a porn star, you know, than Leo Lilith and Lilith in the 5th house is. But Leo Lilith and Lilith in the 5th house, they have this like deep vibrational essence to them that's just sexual and that's just comfortable in themselves. Like Leo Mars and Mars in the 5th house puts on this confidence because they want you to tell them how confident and how sexy and how hot they are. Leo Lilith and Lilith in the 5th house, it just is. It just is sexy. It just is confident, even if it's not. Like Leo Mars and Mars in the 5th house has to be hot to feel hot. Leo Lilith, Lilith in the 5th house, it doesn't really have to be. It just is sexual. I hate to talk up Leo energy and 5th house energy, but my favorite Leo energy is in Mars or Lilith. Like, it just really is. I think that's the best place for it. So I'll give it to you. I'll give credit where credit is due, okay? So number 9, this one talks to number 9, I think, in my red flag video. And I've mentioned like Mars only moves sign every 6 to 14 months. I think it's something like that. So it's really important to pay attention to your year's Marses as well as the Marses in the years like 2 to 3 above and below you, because those are going to be the people you're interacting with and probably having sexual relationships with the most. Unless you're like a sugar baby, sugar daddy, then, you know, look at that age gap and pay attention to that. But at that point, it's not really about sexual compatibility, so I guess that doesn't really matter. Just pay attention to around, you know, 3 years above and below you. See what those Mars signs are, but more importantly, see what those Mars aspects are and see around what years you find their Mars to be most compatible with yours. So I talked about in the last video the Mars years that I just know for sure are incompatible with me, or that, you know, are a little bit of a red flag. And then in this video, I'll talk about the one that I know to be compatible with me. That doesn't mean that this is the only thing I'm compatible with or anything like that, but like I know that I love like a late, like mid to late 1993 to early 1994 Mars. It's like Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius, right? Those are like my 4 favorite Mars signs. And in like the Sagittarius Capricorn season of that year, it's Sun conjunct Mars, which I really like. And it's a good age gap for me because I am a 97 baby. So there's like, you know, around 3 years. Like it's not too big, it's not too small. If you're asking me, I don't want to be with somebody my same age, because then they'll have my same aspects, my same problems, and then we'll just kind of like reiterate the same problems that we already have within each other. So that's why I think it's important to go a little bit outside of your year, but something like 3 years for me, I think is like perfect. That's just for me personally. Like I know, like if I see somebody that was born in like 1993, early 1994, every time I've hooked up with somebody around that time, it's been one of my best experiences. So that's quite a bit of a green flag for me, honestly. So check out what's going on, check out what you're compatible with. You might like the years that I'm incompatible with, so it's totally different. So even though these videos have to do with natal placements and natal aspects, I have been, just for the fuck of it, mentioning maybe like 1, maximum 2 like synastry aspects. So number 10 is my synastry aspects that I like to look for that are green flags. And this one is gonna surprise you because it's very out of line with the themes of each of these videos. So number 10 is actually Mars friction in synastry with Mars, Venus, Jupiter, or Mercury. So I actually like to see some friction within Mars energy. You don't want a lot. You don't want a ton. You don't want an overwhelming amount. And there's a reason why I only mentioned those 4 placements. Like Mars friction with like Pluto, Neptune, or the moon, like that's really bad. That's not the friction that I am looking for at all. But the friction that I am looking for, again, Mars and Mars friction is great because again, it's that complementary idea. You guys go after things a little bit differently, and so it can give you that chase. Like one person will go after that person, the other person will be chased, and they'll like those positions because let's say one person is a Mars in Capricorn and they like chasing, and one person is a Mars in Libra and they like to be chased. Or let's say one person is a Mars in Sagittarius and they like being the confrontational one, and one person is a Mars in Pisces and they like being confronted, or whatever it might be. So this can be a little bit negative in the grand scheme of things because there can be some trials of will. There can be some friction. There can be a lot of arguments with this like Mars square Mars, Mars opposite Mars kind of energy. But for a hookup experience, my God, it is fun. Like Mars friction with Mars does a lot of times start out with like, I hate you kind of energy. And then it turns into you, I want you. Like, yeah, like it's hot, you know? And then Mars friction with Venus energy is really nice because Venus is the feminine, Mars is the masculine. And if these things are too complementary, it's almost like you guys are doing the same thing to reach satisfaction. If there's a little bit of friction, the feminine is going to do something a little bit different than the masculine, which you want. You want the feminine, which this can be a man that's the feminine and a man that's the masculine. This can be a man that's the feminine, woman that's masculine, right? It doesn't matter. I'm just talking about Venus as the feminine, Mars is the masculine. This doesn't have to do with gender. But what I like about it is that who's ever the Venus, right? Their way of seducing is in friction with the way that the person that goes after things gets things. It's kind of fun because then it aggravates the Mars person and it makes them be like, I can't do my normal things with you. Like my normal tools aren't working, and they need to kind of like do things a little bit differently. And same with the Venus person as well. And that's what kind of makes it fun. It's a little bit scary. It's a little bit awkward. It's a little bit clunky, but it can be really fun. And again, create that like cat and mouse kind of energy that you do want within hookups and sex. Mars Jupiter friction is really nice because this creates like an insatiable sexual appetite that like can't be fulfilled. It's like you guys both have probably a lot of sexual wants and desires and needs, but it's like the energies are a little bit different. So this one can be very clunky. This one is kind of like you know, Mars and Venus are the ones that I want to see the most, and then Mercury and Jupiter are the ones that I'd want to see a little bit less than that, but I still like them. But what I like about Mars Jupiter is like it kind of pushes people to their limits, as well as it does have that feeling of like you always want more. Like even when you're satisfied, you still feel like you're never fully satisfied, which can be kind of frustrating, but it can also keep things enticing and exciting and fun and push things. This can make for a lot of like public sex. This can make for a lot of like dares sexually, which can be very fun in the hookup experience. But again, you do have to be cautious that that's something that you're comfortable and confident in. So if you don't have a strong Mars or Jupiter where you're like have a lot of confidence, are comfortable with your sexuality, I wouldn't go with for this energy, because this can kind of coerce you to do things you don't want to do. But if you do feel very confident in what you want sexually, this is a really fun energy. And then the last one I'll talk about, which is not going to be for most people other than me, is Mars in friction with Mercury. Most people will hate this. Most people, this will be a red flag. This is one that you don't want to get involved with. So I would not recommend this for most people at all. But I have Mars square Mercury, and so I am a very combative person verbally. And I like people to be combative with me verbally. If I can't make fun of the person, and if I can't make jokes, and if I can't just say shit, then I don't want to be with that person sexually, honestly. And I also like Mars Mercury conflicts because it does create a lot of like interesting dirty talk. Almost like Mercury Mars negative aspect is like that little kid on the playground that makes fun of you, but they really like you. And I am very much that kind of energy, but I wouldn't recommend this for most people. I would not, because for most people it'll just feel like if you guys have this aspect that they're just bullying you. But that's why I like third house Mars, because they'll bully you back. Okay. So yeah, that was a little bit of an odd one to end off with, but Mars and Mars friction, Mars and Venus friction will be good for almost anybody. Especially like Mars and Venus friction is really good for people that are in traditional gender roles. You'll really like this. The man chasing the woman, and the woman like, it's those kind of tropes, which is fun to play out in real life. Even if you're a man that's the feminine and you're a woman that's masculine, it's still fun to play out those tropes. So that is my top 10 astrological green flags for sex, for hookups, for fucking, for getting it on. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any requests for any other kind of red flag, green flags ideas, I do like doing these videos, so let me know. Let me know your astrological green flags for sex. I'm very curious. We'll talk about it in the comments. I've been very open in this video. Maybe you'll be open with me in the comments. But thank you so much for watching. And just in general, I would like to say that I've had this channel for a few months now, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you to anybody who has ever commented, anybody who has ever subscribed, liked my videos, anything. I've been really enjoying being on this new channel. All right, I will also again mention that I sell birth chart readings. I have an astrological TikTok, and I have a personal Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. All right. Bye!